I'm Sarah Nolan, and I just turned 34. Let me paint a picture for you. Yesterday morning, I woke up, rolled over in bed, and saw exactly 99 missed calls glaring from my phone screen. Every single one was from my mother and my younger sister. Ironically, these were the exact same two women who, just 24 hours prior on my actual birthday, sent me a cold text declaring they needed space and demanding I never contact them again. My sister even took the time to heart the message. But here's the crucial detail they were blissfully unaware of. I am the sole person signing the checks that keep our family afloat. They had absolutely no clue that the sprawling estate they reside in, the luxury vehicles they drive, and the limitless credit cards they max out, every single cent of it passes through my fingers. Until, of course, I shut the valve completely. Before we dive into the fallout, do me a quick favor, hit that like button and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy stories like this. Also, drop a comment letting me know where in the world you're tuning in from and what time it is there. Alright, let's rewind to the beginning. For as long as I can remember, I was the phantom child of the house. It wasn't the stuff of dramatic movie tragedies. I wasn't locked away in a closet or starved. It was a much more insidious kind of neglect. My mother just looked right through me. Whenever I walked into a space, her gaze would immediately dart around looking for my younger sister, Jessica. Every dinner table chat, every family meeting, somehow inevitably pivoted to what Jessica wanted, Jessica's aspirations, Jessica's minor inconveniences. Naturally, I evolved into the family's silent problem solver. Fast forward to a decade ago. I was 24, fresh out of business school, when my father suddenly passed away. He left behind Nolan Properties, a corporate entity that was absolutely suffocating under a mountain of debt. My mother was paralyzed, utterly clueless about what to do next. Jessica was 19 and far more passionate about designer shopping than debt restructuring. So, I took the reins. I spent grueling 60-hour weeks renegotiating vendor contracts, consolidating loans, and bleeding for the business until Nolan Properties didn't just break even, it exploded in growth. Today, I sit as the Chief Financial Officer. That title sounds incredibly glamorous on paper. But let me tell you what being CFO actually entailed for my personal life. It meant I was wiring $8,000 directly into my mother's checking account every single month. It meant sending another $3,500 to Jessica. I was the invisible benefactor covering the mortgage for the mansion they lived in, their leased luxury SUVs, their endless tropical getaways, and their weekly spa retreats. And over an entire decade, neither of them ever uttered the words, "thank you." The only time my phone rang with my mother's caller ID was when a bank transfer was delayed. Just last month, the funds arrived 2 days late because I was locked in negotiations for a massive corporate acquisition. When she called, there was no, "Hi Sarah, how are you holding up?" It was just an immediate, "Why isn't the transfer there yet? Your sister needs it for her vacation." I'll be honest, the last time anybody in my bloodline actually acknowledged my existence on my birthday was when I turned 12. My dad baked me a lopsided chocolate cake. He used way too much icing to spell out, "Happy birthday, my little CEO." That was 22 years ago. He's been gone for 10. Ever since his funeral, my birthday has just been another blank square on the calendar. Or at least, I assumed this year's would be. About 3 weeks before I turned 34, I stumbled upon a piece of information that made my blood run cold. It happened because of a careless slip-up. Jessica forwarded a text to our family group chat. The funny thing is, we didn't actively use a family group chat. But it quickly became obvious she was trying to forward it to a different thread, a private channel that only included her and my mother. The message she mistakenly dropped in my lap was short but explosive. "Let's discuss the shares at the meeting on Saturday. Jay, make sure you wear something nice." I just stared at the screen. What shares? What Saturday meeting? Then I scrolled through the attached screenshots Jessica had accidentally included. It was a log of their private text history, capturing dozens of bubbles I was never meant to liaison. Mom wrote, "We really need to look into liquidating some of the company's stock." Jessica replied, "Sarah is not going to like that." Mom, Sarah doesn't need to be in the loop yet. She just handles the paperwork. I felt a physical pain in my chest as I kept reading. Jessica, she acts like she runs everything. It's so annoying. Mom, don't stress over her. She's always been a difficult girl. Zero social skills. That's exactly why she buries herself in spreadsheets. Jessica, true LOL. She wouldn't even grasp the business strategy side of things anyway. Mom, you're the one with the real business sense, sweetheart. Just like your grandmother. I dropped my phone onto the table, my hands visibly shaking. For 10 entire years, I had poured my blood, sweat, and tears into rebuilding this company from the ground up. I had given up my weekends, ghosted relationships, and completely sacrificed any semblance of a personal life. And in their eyes, I was just the difficult, awkward daughter pushing papers. But the detail that completely shattered something inside of me was the date of their covert meeting. March 15th. My birthday. They were organizing a secret summit to sell off portions of my late father's legacy, the very company he trusted me to safeguard on the exact day I was born. Without inviting me, and clearly without realizing why that specific date might matter. That's the moment the blinders finally came off. I didn't sleep a wink that night. I sat in my kitchen, armed with a calculator and a decade's worth of bank statements. The math painted a horrifying picture of my own enabling. The $8,000 monthly allowance for my mother over 120 months, $960,000. Jessica's $3,500 monthly stipend, $420,000. Throw in the house payments, the car leases, the credit card bills, and the emergency loans that were never repaid, easily another $400,000 at minimum. I had handed my family nearly $2 million in 10 years. In return, I literally couldn't remember the last time my mother asked about my well-being or the last time Jessica called just to chat. It was a one-way transaction. Money went in, silence came out. I thought back to my dad. I remembered how he would look at me across the dinner table, treating me like the only person in the room who truly understood him. I remembered the late nights we spent poring over business projections when I was just a high schooler. I recalled his quiet pride when I graduated top of my class. "Sarah, you're the only one I trust with this," he had whispered just weeks before the cancer claimed him. "The company, the family, you're going to take care of it all. I know you will." I had kept that sacred promise. But somewhere along the line, taking care of the family had mutated into fully funding their opulent reality while they actively erased me from their lives. I opened my phone's contact list and scrolled until I found a name I hadn't dialed in an eternity, Harold Weston. He was my dad's oldest friend and our corporate attorney. Harold faithfully reached out every single year on the anniversary of my dad's passing, just checking in. I'd always reply with a brief, polite thank you, never really understanding why he was so persistent. Suddenly, I was starting to connect the dots. I made a silent vow right then. I wasn't going to blow up at them. Not yet. A huge part of me wanted to call my mother instantly, demanding to know why they were plotting behind my back, why they thought I was just an administrator, and why my birthday meant nothing to them. But what would that accomplish? Just more denials, more gaslighting, and more claims that I was being too sensitive. No, I wanted to view the truth in high definition. And the clearest view would arrive on March 15th, the day they planned to discuss corporate takeovers, the day they apparently forgot I was born. I would wait in the shadows and watch exactly how they treated me when they didn't have to pretend. In the meantime, I dialed Harold. He picked up on the second ring, almost as if he'd been staring at his phone. "Sarah," his voice was warm, yet cautious. "It's been quite a while." "I know. I'm sorry I haven't kept in touch," I replied. "Don't apologize." "I've always understood," he said, pausing heavily. "Are you calling regarding the letter?" My breath hitched. "What letter?" The line went utterly silent for a few seconds. "Your father left something with me," Harold explained slowly. "His explicit instructions were to hand it over only when you were ready. I have been waiting for this exact phone call for 10 years. My pulse hammered in my chest. Ready for what? He didn't specify. He just said that I'd know, and more importantly, that you would know. Harold took a breath. "I believe you might be ready now, Sarah. Am I wrong?" I flashed back to the leaked group chat, the secret plots, the cruel insults. "No," I breathed out. "You're not wrong." I will deliver it to you, Harold promised. But not until you explicitly ask me to. This has to be your choice entirely. I thanked him, ended the call, and realized my hands were trembling again, not from devastation this time, but from a strange, empowering sense of hope. March 15th rolled in exactly like any boring Tuesday. I was up by 6 a.m., brewing coffee and diving into work emails. The morning sunlight filtered into my apartment exactly as it always did. I was 34 years old today. I held off until noon before grabbing my smartphone. My thumb hovered over the actual family group chat, the one I was allowed to be in, which had been dead for weeks. I typed out a single, innocent question. Today is my birthday. Did anyone remember? I hit send, flipped the device face down on my desk, and forced myself to work. I reviewed legal contracts. I finalized quarterly projections. The minutes dragged by. 1 hour. 2. 3. Finally, at 3:47 p.m., my phone vibrated. My mother's name flashed across the screen. My heart did a stupid little jump. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe she remembered after all. I opened the text. "We need space from you. Please don't reach out anymore." I stared at the screen, reading it 3 times over, convinced my brain was misinterpreting the words. But the text remained unchanged. A second later, a new notification dropped down. Jessica had hearted the message. My sister actively endorsed our mother, telling me to drop off the face of the earth. On my birthday, I sat perfectly still. The afternoon shadows crawled across my floorboards. Somewhere out on the street, a car horn blared. Life just kept moving, completely indifferent to the fact that my own flesh and blood had just excommunicated me using 11 words. I don't know how long I sat there in a trance until autopilot kicked in. I swiped over to Instagram. Jessica's profile was set to public. She never even bothered to add me, so I could view it freely. The glowing ring around her profile picture indicated a new story. I tapped it. It was a snapshot of crystal champagne flutes, lavish pink and gold decorations, and a massive banner in the background. I pinched the screen to zoom in. The banner read, "Happy birthday." The timestamp proved it was uploaded just 30 minutes ago. Any residual trembling in my fingers vanished. They were perfectly steady now. I tapped through Jessica's stories with surgical precision. The first video showed the grand entrance to the estate, the very estate I paid $12,000 a month to rent. Massive pink balloon arches framed the doorway, and a hired valet was parking a Mercedes. The second slide was a boomerang video of my mother tweaking a massive floral centerpiece. She was decked out in her power pearls, the jewelry she strictly reserved for dazzling corporate elites. The third photo made my stomach drop into my shoes. It was a close-up of a handwritten VIP guest list, penned in my mother's elegant calligraphy. I immediately recognized the names. Marcus Webb, from Web Development, our absolute biggest client. The Hartley sisters, who controlled half the commercial real estate in the city. David Chin, the massive investment banker we had been courting for over 6 months. These people weren't family friends. These were my high-level professional contacts, people I had spent years networking with. And they were currently mingling at a soiree inside my family's home, a party I was banned from. The final story was the ultimate slap in the face. A stunning 3-tier cake draped in edible flowers. Written in gorgeous, sweeping frosting loops was the name, Jessica. Let's pause. Jessica was born on April 20th. I checked the calendar app on my phone. It was March 15th. My birthday. My mother was hosting a lavish birthday gala for the wrong daughter on the exact date of the right daughter's birthday, using the right daughter's money, while simultaneously telling that right daughter to drop dead. And to top it off, she had invited my entire professional network. I could practically hear the small talk happening right then. Someone asking, "Where's your older daughter?" And my mother, waving her hand dismissively, scoffing, "Oh, Sarah isn't really part of things. She's difficult. Lacks people skills." They were sipping top-shelf champagne on my dime, completely unaware that their invisible financier was sitting alone in a silent apartment, freshly blocked from her own family. Something permanent shifted inside my soul right then. A quiet, cold finality. I dialed Harold at exactly 5 p.m. Bring me the letter. I'll be at your office in an hour. He didn't ask a single question. While I waited for the time to pass, I booted up the company's foundational legal files. Not the daily operational spreadsheets I stared at every day, but the core incorporation documents my father had me sign a decade ago without me truly digesting them. Upon his death, Dad left me a commanding 60% equity stake in Nolan Properties. Mom received 20% and Jessica the remaining 20%. I always knew that part. What I had never truly processed were the legal implications. As the supermajority shareholder and the acting CFO, I held exclusive signing authority over absolutely everything. Every vendor contract, every corporate expenditure, every single dividend payout, including the family trust. The very trust that bankrolled my mother's extravagant dinners, the trust that paid off Jessica's credit cards, the trust that had been bleeding dry for a decade while I mindlessly signed the checks on autopilot. I had always viewed it as Dad's money, a familial duty I was obligated to manage for everyone's comfort. But legally speaking, I was the sole signatory. Not a single dime could move without my explicit approval. Harold walked in right at 6 p.m. He looked a bit more weathered than I recalled, but his gaze was as sharp as ever. "Before you read this," he cautioned, handing over a thick, sealed envelope, "there's something you need to know." I waited. Your father quietly reorganized the entire corporate structure about 6 months before his passing. He anticipated what your mother would do. Harold chose his words delicately. He knew Patricia would relentlessly favor Jessica. He saw it happening even back then. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" I asked. "He extracted a promise from me to wait until you actively came to me," Harold explained gently. "He insisted that you needed to see their true colors for yourself, otherwise you would never believe it." I looked down at the envelope resting in my hands. Across the front, in my father's neat, unmistakable print, it read, "For Sarah, when she's ready." I broke the seal. The parchment was yellowing at the edges. Dad's words filled both sides of the page. "My dear Sarah," it began. "If you are reading this, it means what I feared most has finally come to pass. Your mother and sister have pushed you far enough that you've started asking the hard questions. I am profoundly sorry it took this long, and I'm sorry I couldn't protect you better. I've watched the way Patricia looks at you since you were small. I've watched her compare you to Jessica, always finding you lacking. It shatters my heart because I know the absolute truth. You are the strongest person in this family, the most confident, the most fiercely loyal. But strength isn't the same as being valued. And giving your loyalty to people who only view you as an asset is a losing game. I am leaving the company to you because you are the only one competent enough to protect it. But more importantly, I am giving you the power to protect yourself. The trust, the accounts, the executive authority, it was all placed in your hands for a reason. You do not owe anyone your sacrifice, not even your own blood. If they've hurt you deeply enough that you're opening this letter, then they have already shown you who they truly are. Believe them. Know that walking away isn't betrayal, it's survival. Doing the right thing does not mean letting people bleed you dry. Remember that. I love you more than words can express, and wherever I am fiercely proud of the woman you've become. Dad. I didn't even realize I was crying until the tears were hitting the desk. It was a quiet, steady release. My father had known all those years ago. He had predicted this exact heartbreak, and he had painstakingly built me an escape route, brick by brick, waiting patiently for the day I'd need it. That day was today. Hey everyone, let's take a quick breath. If you've ever felt completely invisible inside your own family, I want you to know I see you. And if this story is hitting a little too close to home, would you do me a huge favor? Drop a comment and tell me, have you ever had to establish a hard boundary with someone who is supposed to love you unconditionally? I really want to know I'm not alone in this. Also, if you're hooked on this story, tapping that subscribe button really helps the channel grow. Now, let's get back to the fallout. I carefully folded Dad's letter and tucked it securely into my desk drawer. Then I looked up at Harold. What are my legal options? He walked me through the artillery. As the majority shareholder and sole trustee, I had the immediate power to freeze all financial distributions. I could radically alter Mom and Jessica's access to the corporate funds, or, if I desired, I could instantly cut off their financial lifeblood entirely. But that's not what you're planning, is it? Harold deduced, watching my face. No, I replied, standing up and walking over to my closet. I'm going to that party. Harold's eyebrows shot up. Are you absolutely sure that's a wise move? They are currently telling a house full of people that you don't even exist, that you're difficult and lack social skills. I pulled out my absolute best armor, a razor-sharp, charcoal gray executive suit. The exact one I wore when I annihilated competitors in boardrooms. I want to hear exactly what else they're saying, I said. And more importantly, I want to see exactly who is listening. Sarah, Harold interjected, his tone shifting. You should know. I was actually invited to that party. Marcus Webb asked me to swing by to casually review some joint venture paperwork over drinks. I paused, staring at him. They don't realize you're my personal attorney, do they? They just think you're general corporate counsel. A small, knowing smile crossed Harold's face. Your mother has never once bothered to look at the organizational chart. She has no earthly idea that I report directly to you. The puzzle pieces locked into place. So, you'll be in the room. I will. And Marcus Webb, our biggest revenue source, will be in the room. He will. I let that sink in. My mother was parading around, claiming I was a nobody, while Jessica took the bow for my decade of relentless grind. Yet, standing right in their living room were two men who knew exactly who held the keys to the kingdom. I didn't need to scream or make a scene. I just needed to step into the light and let the truth reveal itself. I'll see you there, I told him. I pulled up to the property at 7:30 p.m. The valet took my keys without a second glance. I strolled up the pristine stone walkway, passing the exotic rose bushes my mother had commissioned last spring, paid for entirely by my end-of-year bonus. The massive front doors were propped wide open, leaking laughter and jazz music into the night. But I didn't walk through the front entrance. Not yet. I slipped around the perimeter toward the side garden, where the floor-to-ceiling French doors offered a perfect view of the grand living room. The sheer curtains were parted just enough. Inside, my mother was holding court in the center of the room. She was telling an animated story, gesturing grandly with her wine glass, surrounded by a captive audience that included Marcus Webb. I crept closer, blending into the shadows. My older daughter, my mother, was projecting, waving her free hand with rehearsed pity. Oh, Sarah. She struggles with some severe emotional deficits. She's incredibly difficult to be around, honestly. My chest tightened. We actually had to sever ties recently, just for our own mental health, she sighed dramatically. It was heartbreaking, but some people simply cannot maintain relationships. A woman I had never seen before placed a hand on her chest. Oh, that must be so incredibly hard. It truly is, Mom said, literally dabbing the corner of her eye with a napkin. But we must protect ourselves, mustn't we? Marcus Webb frowned slightly, swirling his drink. Wait, doesn't she work for your firm? Sarah? I was under the impression. My mother let out a bright, artificial laugh. Sarah? Oh heavens, she does some minor administrative chores. Filing cabinets, that sort of thing. She reached out and pulled Jessica affectionately by the shoulder. This one right here is the real business mastermind of the family. Just like her grandmother. Jessica beamed like she had just won a Nobel Prize. Standing in the dark garden, listening to my mother spin absolute fiction to the man whose multi-million-dollar contracts I personally negotiated, I realized something profound. She truly had no idea who I was. It was time for a reminder. I marched back to the front door and walked inside like I owned the place. Because legally and financially, I did. The grand foyer was packed with elite clients, regional partners, and industry heavyweights. A few recognized me and offered polite nods, though most only knew my signature on their legal agreements, not my face. I bypassed them all and headed straight for the living room. As I moved, the ambient chatter began to fizzle out. Dressed in my imposing charcoal suit amidst a sea of party dresses, I looked like I had just come from executing a corporate takeover, which wasn't entirely inaccurate. My mother spotted me first. All the color instantly drained from her face. Her champagne glass tilted dangerously, hovering on the edge of a spill for 3 agonizing seconds as she stared. Sarah, she choked out, her voice barely a whisper. What are you doing here? I stopped dead center in the room. Every single head swiveled in my direction. "I'm not contacting you, Mom," I said, my voice carrying clearly across the silent room. "I'm just here for the birthday party." Jessica aggressively shoved her way to the front of the crowd, her face twisted in panic. "Your birthday isn't for another month." I flashed a cold smile. "No, Jessica. My birthday is today, March 15th. Your birthday is April 20th. The room erupted in confused whispers. My mother's face morphed from shock to realization, and finally to terror. You can't just show up here. I explicitly told you we needed space." "And I've given you space," I replied smoothly. "No calls, no texts." I swept my gaze across the room. But since half of my professional network is currently here, I figured I'd drop by to say hello. More loud whispering. I caught Marcus Webb's eye. He was scowling, looking rapidly between me and my mother. "Wait," Marcus's booming voice sliced through the murmurs. "Sarah Nolan?" As in. He turned sharply to my mother. "Your daughter is Sarah Nolan? Our CFO." My mother opened her mouth, but absolutely nothing came out. The silence was deafening. I realized that in a decade of living off my sweat, she had never once admitted to her social circle what my actual job title was. Marcus stepped closer, his brow furrowed. "Mrs. Nolan," his voice was measured but lethal, "you literally just stood there and told me Sarah does minor paperwork." Mom gripped her glass like a lifeline. "Well, I just meant." "Sarah Nolan," Marcus interrupted, his voice echoing, "is the Chief Financial Officer of Nolan Properties. She has personally authorized and signed every single contract between our two companies for the past decade." He gestured toward me. "She single-handedly salvaged our Riverside development deal when it was about to completely collapse last year." Audible gasps echoed from the guests. David Chin, the investment banker, pushed forward. "I'm incredibly confused. Patricia, you've been telling us your older daughter isn't involved in the business. She just manages the money." Jessica shrieked, her voice pitching into a desperate register. "That's not the same as." "That is exactly what a CFO does," Marcus cut her off, looking at her like she was an idiot. "That is literally the job." Before anyone else could speak, Harold Weston smoothly detached himself from the crowd near the bar and stepped into the center of the fray. "If I may," he announced calmly, commanding the room's attention. "I am here tonight to finalize partnership documents with Web Development. However, I feel I should clarify something." Everyone turned to look at him. "As the legal counsel for Nolan Properties, I can legally confirm that Sarah Nolan holds 60% of the company's shares. She is the supermajority owner and possesses sole signing authority over all major financial instruments." Harold let the next words hang heavily in the air. "Including the family trust." You could have heard a pin drop. My mother's skin had turned a sickly shade of gray. That's not true." "It is public record, Patricia," Harold replied gently but firmly. "You would know this if you'd ever bothered to read the corporate documents." Jessica practically clawed at my mother's arm. "Mom, what does that mean? What does sole signing authority mean?" I locked eyes with my sister, then my mother, and finally scanned the crowd of industry titans who now knew exactly who I was. "It means," I said, my voice echoing with finality, "that absolutely nothing happens without me." The room descended into absolute chaos. Whispers turned into loud chatter. I watched my mother's meticulously curated fantasy world evaporate into thin air. Her entire persona was built on being the powerful matriarch of a dynasty. Now everyone knew the truth. "Sarah." Mom's tone completely shifted to something pathetic and pleading. "Sweetheart, please. This is all a massive misunderstanding." That message I sent was very clearly. My face remained stone. "You said you needed space. You said not to reach out." "I didn't mean it." "And Jessica hearted it," I added. My sister physically flinched. I thought." She stammered. "You thought what, exactly?" I challenged. She had no answer. The guests were pretending to look away, but everyone was completely glued to the spectacle. Mom tried a new angle, forcing tears to well up. "Darling, it's just been so incredibly stressful. You know how overwhelmed we've been. We weren't thinking clearly. You were thinking clearly enough to throw Jessica an extravagant birthday party 5 weeks early. I replied coldly, gesturing at the lavish decor. On my actual birthday. Someone near the back of the room let out a loud gasp. That's not. Mom spun around frantically. The caterers made a massive scheduling mistake. We had to pivot. The custom banner says, "Happy birthday, Jessica," I stated plainly. The 3-tier cake says, "Jessica." This wasn't a scheduling error. Marcus Webb cleared his throat loudly. I believe I should get going. He looked directly at me. Sarah, I will call your direct line tomorrow. We have things to discuss. That was the cue. Like dominoes, the guests began murmuring hasty apologies and making aggressive beelines for the exit. The party was emptying at record speed. I stood and watched as my mother's high society reputation burned to the ground in real time. Then I turned on my heel and headed for the front door. Sarah, wait. Mom lunged forward and grabbed my arm. You cannot just leave. We need to discuss this. I gently but firmly removed her hand. You asked for space, I whispered. I'm giving you exactly what you asked for. And with that, I walked out into the night and never looked back. Okay, real talk. If you were standing in my shoes at that exact moment, what would you do? Would you drop the mic and walk away like I did, or would you stay and twist the knife a little more? Tell me in the comments. I genuinely want to know how you guys would handle this. And hey, if you haven't subscribed yet, now might be the perfect time. We're getting to the part where their entire reality crashes down. The drive back to my apartment was totally silent. No music, no podcasts, just the quiet hum of the engine and the streetlights washing over my windshield. I didn't feel vindictive or triumphant. I just felt incredibly exhausted, but deeply, truly peaceful. The second I walked through my front door, I poured a glass of ice water, sat at my home office desk, and got to work. First on the agenda, the bank. The family trust possessed a standard review clause. Any authorized signatory could trigger a temporary lockdown pending a financial evaluation. I invoked it immediately. The late-night account manager asked how long the freeze would last. As long as necessary, I instructed. Please process the hold right now. Next, I drafted a comprehensive email to Harold with a list of action items. I requested a full audit of all capital withdrawn by Patricia and Jessica over the last 12 months. I ordered him to prepare the legal documentation for a formal restructuring of all trust disbursements. I wasn't doing anything illegal or malicious. I was simply installing steel-reinforced boundaries. My final task was the most liberating. I opened my phone settings, pulled up my mother's contact profile, and hit block. I did the exact same to Jessica, and then the group chat. They had explicitly begged me not to contact them, so I was guaranteeing it. I left my phone on the nightstand and climbed into bed. For the first time in my entire adult life, I didn't anxiously check my inbox before sleeping. I didn't brace myself for an incoming disaster or wonder who needed me to fix their mess. The room was dark, silent, and safe. I thought about my father's letter. Walking away isn't betrayal, it's survival. I wasn't abandoning my family. I was abandoning the version of myself that allowed them to treat me like an emotional ATM. That night, for the first time in a decade, I slept completely through until morning. It was the absolute greatest birthday gift I had ever received. I woke up naturally at 7 a.m. The sun was shining. Birds were actually singing outside my window. For a solid 5 minutes, I just lay there, utterly bewildered by the absence of anxiety knotting my stomach. My nervous system literally didn't know how to process waking up without tension. Then, curiosity got the better of me. I unblocked their numbers, just to assess the damage. 99 missed calls. The iPhone counter had literally maxed out. 47 new voicemails. Scrolling through the log, there were calls from Mom's cell, Jessica's cell, and dozens from burner numbers and friends' phones they had clearly borrowed once they realized I had digitally walled them off. I played the voicemails. The progression of panic was fascinating. 8:47 p.m. Sarah, this is absolutely ridiculous. Call me back immediately. Mom, her tone clipped and authoritative. 10:15 p.m. My credit card isn't working. What did you do? Jessica, shrill and frantic. 11:30 p.m. Sarah, whatever point you are trying to make, you've successfully made it. Now fix this. Mom, starting to lose her confidence. 2 a.m. Please, please just call us back. We need to talk about this. Jessica, sobbing hysterically. 6:15 a.m. Sarah, the bank is saying the trust is frozen. They refuse to tell us anything. Please, please, my sweetheart. Mom's voice totally cracked and shattered. I set the phone down. My email inbox was equally chaotic. Jessica had sent a wall of all-caps text screaming that it was family money and I couldn't do this to her. Mom had sent a massive essay swinging wildly between aggressive accusations and pathetic begging, claiming I was being excessively cruel and that they loved me. But resting quietly at the bottom of my inbox was a completely different email. It was from Marcus Webb. Sarah, I have no idea what your family situation is, and frankly, it's none of my business. But I want it clearly stated that my trust lies completely with you, not them. Let's talk this week about moving forward. You have my full, absolute support. I read it twice, smiled, shut the laptop, and made myself a cup of coffee. They were going to survive, but for the first time, they were going to have to figure it out without me. Over the next few days, reality crashed down on them. Harold called me with daily updates. Because the trust was locked, all the automatic drafts had stopped instantly. The landlord who owned the sprawling mansion my mother rented, the one I paid for, received an insufficient funds notice. He personally called Patricia, highly confused. Mom desperately tried to spin it as a banking error, but Harold noted he's giving her 30 days. Meanwhile, Jessica's premium credit card was humiliatingly declined at an Elite Day spa where she was trying to book a recovery day after the party disaster. Then it declined at her favorite Michelin star restaurant. Then at a gas pump. The dealership handling her luxury car lease mailed a bounced payment notice. They are rapidly realizing, Harold said quietly over the phone, that absolutely everything they have flows strictly through your signature. I didn't feel smug hearing this. I just felt a hollow, strange calm. And the business partners? I asked. The ones from the party? Marcus Webb called me this morning, Harold chuckled. He wants to legally strengthen your partnership agreement. He says he feels infinitely more secure knowing you're the one actually running the ship. I almost laughed. Oh, and the Hartley sisters sent a massive floral arrangement to your office lobby with a handwritten note apologizing for buying into Patricia's nonsense. They're requesting a meeting to expand their investments. I sat with that incredible information. A decade of my mother's smear campaign was incinerated in a single evening. Harold, I sighed, I'm not trying to destroy them. I just want to stop being used. I know, he replied warmly. Your father knew that, too. That's exactly why he set things up this way. You have the ultimate leverage to defend yourself without having to be vicious. Then let's figure out a sustainable arrangement. Something fair, I instructed. Fair was all I had ever wanted. For days post-party, my mother breached the perimeter. My office intercom buzzed, and my assistant sounded terrified. Ms. Nolan, there is a very upset woman in the reception area. She says she's your mother. I closed my laptop smoothly. I'll handle it, Rachel. I walked out to the glass-walled lobby myself. Mom was standing at the reception desk, looking like she had aged 10 years. Her makeup was smudged, and her designer blouse was wrinkled, like she had slept in it. Where is my daughter? She was demanding loudly. I need to see my daughter right now. Ms. Nolan, my receptionist breathed a sigh of relief as I approached. It's completely fine, Rachel. I've got this, I said calmly. Mom whipped around. For a split second, relief washed over her face. Sarah. Oh, thank God. We have to talk. This has all been a terrible. Not here. I kept my voice icy and strictly professional. This is my workplace. Then come outside. Come home, please. We are family. You explicitly told me not to contact you, I reminded her. I didn't mean it, she shrieked, her voice echoing off the glass walls as heads turned throughout the lobby. You know I didn't mean it. We were just stressed. Jessica was pressuring me, it wasn't. Did Jessica pressure you into forgetting my birthday? I asked quietly. Did Jessica pressure you into hosting a fake party for her on the day I was born? Did she pressure you to tell our biggest client that I'm an emotionally unstable file clerk? Mom's mouth opened and closed silently. If you wish to speak with me, I said, turning away, you can schedule an appointment through my assistant. just like anyone else. I am your mother. I stopped and looked at her. Really looked at her. The sheer desperation in her eyes, the raw fear. 10 years ago, I would have instantly rushed to comfort her. I would have apologized for causing a scene and fixed everything just to make her stop crying. Not anymore. I know you are, I said softly. But I'm also a person. And people deserve basic respect. I turned and walked back through the security doors. She didn't follow me. Jessica's reality shattered even quicker. I caught wind of her downfall through mutual acquaintances and then through her increasingly pathetic LinkedIn DMs, since her number was still blocked. Her luxurious European summer vacation was scrapped when the travel agency flagged her card. Her high society friends started asking very uncomfortable questions once word of the party disaster leaked. Even her leech of a boyfriend, Tyler, a personal trainer who was allergic to holding a job longer than 6 months, packed his bags. His parting words as he left? I thought you had family money. I didn't sign up for this. A week after the party, the LinkedIn message finally arrived. Sarah, look, I know we haven't always been super close, but I am really struggling here. I honestly didn't understand how things worked. I didn't know you were actually so important to the company. Can we please talk? I am sorry for everything. I just need some help. I read the message 3 times, dissecting the wording. I didn't know you were important. Not I'm sorry for hurting you. Not I'm sorry for treating you like you didn't matter. Just I didn't know you were important. She still didn't comprehend it. She wasn't apologizing for the years of emotional dismissal, the cruel jabs, or the hearted text message. She was only sorry because the cash flow stopped. I typed a reply, deleted it, typed another one, and deleted that too. Finally, I settled on, I appreciate you reaching out. When you are ready to have an authentic conversation about our relationship and absolutely nothing regarding money, let me know. I never heard back. The truth was a bitter pill to swallow. My sister didn't miss me. She missed my wallet. And honestly, that hurt more than anything else. 2 weeks after my birthday, I sent a formal document. Harold delivered it personally to my mother's residence, as I didn't trust an email for something this legally permanent. Dear Mom and Jessica, the letter read, I am not completely cutting you off, but I refuse to continue a relationship dynamic that only functions when I give and you take. If you want to be a part of my life, I am open to that. But it must be built on mutual respect, not on what I can provide for you financially. Effective immediately, the family trust has been legally restructured. You will each receive a fixed monthly allowance. $3,000 for Mom, $1,500 for Jessica. This is a sustainable amount to live comfortably, though not lavishly. This allowance is not tied to our relationship status. You will receive it whether we ever speak again or not. But it is entirely non-negotiable. This is what the trust can support without depleting the principal. If you desire more luxury, you will need to earn it. Jessica, you are 29 years old. It is time to build your own career. Mom, the allowance covers a modest apartment and basic living expenses. The lease on the mansion will not be renewed. I know this isn't what you wanted to hear, but I spent 10 years sacrificing everything I had for a family that treated me like a ghost. That era is over. I love you both, but love does not require me to accept disrespect. And it doesn't mean funding people who only measure my value in dollar signs. If you want to talk, genuinely talk about us, not our bank accounts, my door is open. But I will not be the one reaching out first. You demanded space. I am giving it to you. The next move is entirely yours. Sarah. Harold reported back that my mother sobbed uncontrollably when she read it, and Jessica hurled the document across the room in a tantrum. Neither of them ever picked up the phone to call. But the checks still auto-drafted on the 1st of the month. That felt like the right thing to do. It's been 3 months since my 34th birthday. My mother downsized and moved into a 2-bedroom apartment downtown. It's vastly smaller than the estates she is accustomed to, but it's nice, clean, and manageable. Jessica actually got a job. It's an entry-level position at a local marketing firm. The rumor mill says she complains about it relentlessly, but she physically clocks in every single day. That is definitely something. As for us, we haven't really spoken. A few stiff, awkward text messages here and there. Mom actually mailed me a greeting card for Easter. She got the holiday completely wrong, but at least the effort was there. I honestly don't know if we will ever achieve a real, authentic relationship. The kind of dynamic where they call just to hear my voice, or where the day I was born is actually celebrated. But I have made deep, profound peace with that. I spent 34 years living under the delusion that if I just gave enough cash, worked hard enough, and made myself undeniably useful, my family would magically learn to see me and love me the way I needed to be loved. Dad knew the dark truth. He left me that secret letter because he understood the reality I couldn't accept. Some people will remain blind to your worth, no matter what you do for them. And if you stay locked in their darkness, it will eventually drain every ounce of light from your own soul. Revoking their access wasn't an act of revenge. It wasn't a punishment. It was an act of permission. Permission to finally stop shrinking myself. Permission to stop apologizing for simply existing. Permission to finally secure my own oxygen mask first. Just last week, I celebrated my half-birthday. It was just me, a decadent slice of cake, and a tall glass of wine out on my balcony. Nobody called. Nobody sent extravagant flowers. But I wasn't sad, because for the first time in my entire life, I fully realized that my worth isn't dictated by who remembers me. It is dictated by how I remember myself. And I am finally someone who is worth remembering. Love isn't about being exploited for your usefulness. It's about being deeply valued. It took a nightmare for me to learn the difference, but I finally learned. If this story resonated with you, I would love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever had to choose your own mental peace over your toxic family? What did you do? Drop your story in the comments below. I read every single one. And if you want more content exactly like this, there are a few videos linked in the description that I think you'll really connect with. Thank you so much for staying until the very end. It means more to me than you know. See you in the next one.